What's going on? Welcome to Truth Addiction. This is the channel that deals with the disease of addiction and all the ways it manifests itself. I am a recovering addict. My name is Brian. I suffer from a disease which is incurable, it's progressive, and unfortunately, it's sometimes fatal. It can, however, be arrested at some point, and recovery is then possible. So let me just start by asking, how's everybody doing today? It's a pretty nice day here on the outskirts of Philadelphia. I actually live in a place called Croydon, Pennsylvania. It's about a 10-minute drive from Philadelphia, if you don't know the lingo, yo. Anyway, today we're going to be on the 6th video of this 12-part series I'm doing that's corresponding with the 12 steps of a 12-step program. Mine happens to be Narcotics Anonymous. I like to say this every video I do, and if you've been watching, you know what I'm about to say. Even though I chose Narcotics Anonymous as my 12-step fellowship, my 12-step recovery program, I am in no way, shape, or form promoting Narcotics Anonymous. It's just the one I chose. There are a lot of great 12-step programs out there for whatever ails you. For whatever addiction is to you, there's a ton of them. There's Alcoholics Anonymous, Cocaine Anonymous, Gambling Anonymous, Overeaters Anonymous, Nicotine Anonymous. I mean, shit, there's a Clutterers Anonymous. For motherfuckers that can't stop cluttering shit. For real. There's a lot of them, man. Anyway, the thing is, all the steps are the same, except for the first step. It changes out a word or two. For example, Narcotics Anonymous' first step says, we admitted we were powerless over our addiction, that our lives become unmanageable. For Gambling Anonymous, it would say, we admitted we were powerless over gambling and our lives have become unmanageable. Alcoholics Anonymous, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol and our lives have become unmanageable. So on and so forth. But after that, all the steps are the same. So like I say, going on the principles, the spiritual principles that are contained in these 12 steps, which helps an addict with the disease of addiction, whatever you're addicted to, right? It helps you heal and change. Not just stop doing what you're doing, but to stop doing it, to change so you don't have to do it anymore, right? Because of that reason, that all the steps are the same in any kind of 12-step program, I said it before, I'll say it again. I feel that even if I went to Alcoholics Anonymous and I had a heroin problem, if I was willing and I got in the mix of that program, got a sponsor and worked those steps, I could stay clean from heroin. Because really, at the end of the day, you're going to find, as you start going through this process, the least it has to do with drugs or alcohol or shopping or gambling or eating, right? You start to learn that the problem here is me. And wherever I go, there I go. So the problem's there. Feel what I'm saying? Now with that said, I would just ask if you would just like the videos, maybe comment on the videos, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, help me carry this message, because we are losing a lot of people lately. Over 100,000 overdose deaths a year in the United States of America alone. That number is crazy. And just to put this out there, it was 50,000 not even like 15 years ago. This shit is double, man. It's crazy. So if you can do all those things so YouTube will put this out more, and maybe you're going to help me have that person that comes across this, that's struggling, and maybe they're on the fence about coming to a 12-step program or getting clean, and they don't see a way out, and maybe they see this video and they hear something, and we could change somebody's life. Because I know this shit has changed mine. So anyway, with that said, this is step 6. Step 6 reads, we were entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. So what we do here, if you've been watching, I'm going to read this step out of Narcotics Anonymous Basic Text. It's our textbook. And as I'm reading, I'm going to pause reading, give you my experience, right? And maybe you can leave a comment and give me yours if you're currently on this process. Or if you just got any questions, or you just want to reach out. I don't give a shit. Tell me what the weather is where you live. I don't really care. Anyway, let's dig in. Dig in. Step 6. We were entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. Now, for my atheist people out there, like myself, don't get all bugged out. This ain't a religious program. It could be for you. I know a lot of good people that are religious. I got no problem with it. And they ain't got no problem with me looking at the word God as good, orderly direction. If you want to look at God like, Allah, Jesus, Buddha, welcome. Welcome. All right, here we go. Why ask for something before we are ready for it? This would be asking for trouble. So many times addicts have sought the rewards of hard work without the labor. Willingness is what we strive for in step 6. How sincerely we work this step will be proportionate to our desire for change. So right off the bat, right? This step is about having defects of character removed, right? Now, that line right there, why would we ask for something if we aren't ready for it, right? So I did this step probably like 3 years ago. I haven't got back to this step yet. I'm currently my second time around on the 12 steps, and I think I just completed a step 2. Like in my sponsor chain, we go through 1 through 12, and then we start over, right? Because during that time period, you think years are passing as you're doing these steps. Life changes. Everything in this book will help you deal with life on life's terms. Some sponsor chains, they'll go through the steps, and then if something like is going on in your life, they'll just refer to a certain step and have you look at that and maybe write on it, just so you can kind of deal with what's going on in your life then. Plus, when I first went through these steps, a lot of it had to just do with my drug use. All the people I've harmed, the things, stuff like that. And just all addiction meant to me when I first got clean was heroin, pills, alcohol, just help me get the fuck off of this shit, because it's killing my whole fucking life. You know what I mean? It was all about the drugs. My first step was just all about drugs. And when I just did a first step, like 8 months ago, I did another one, there was nothing there about drugs. So you have to constantly treat this disease, because it's up here. You know what I mean? It's not like you go 1 through 12, you're done, that's it, you're cured, it's all good. No more fucking 12-step program needed. That ain't how it works. And as a matter of fact, the people who stop doing the things like sponsorship, going to meetings, praying or meditating, and having a good network of people who are recovering, the people that stop doing those things, they usually relapse, man. That's just real shit. But this is talking about defects of character, right? And like, defects of character, basically, in its simplest form, it's just like harmful behaviors that lead to like poor decision making and conflict. It's easy as that. Behaviors that you have that lead to poor decision making and conflict, right? And there's a lot of them, man. I didn't know that. So when it talks about we're asking for something, we're ready for it. In other words, this shit's gonna take some work. You know what I mean? Like, you don't just go, okay, I'm entirely ready to have God remove these defects of character. All right, let's go. Let's get it, right? Don't work like that. This shit's gonna take some work. You gotta be ready for it. You gotta be willing to make that, to do the work, internal work that it takes, right? And we're talking about shit like dishonesty, you got selfishness, and like when there's like surface level selfishness. Like, let's say you're eating some fucking fries and your boy's like, yo, let me get a french fry. And you're like, nah, you ain't getting none of my fucking fries, Holmes. You know what I mean? That's surface level selfishness. We're talking about being things like preoccupied with your physical appearance, right? You know what I'm saying? Or like self-importance. You know what I mean? We're talking about defects like that. Like, hey, I have seen motherfuckers relapse due to, I gotta get these J's, I gotta get these clothes, I gotta get the hottest girl, I gotta get a cool job, right? I got all these things, you know what I'm saying? And they don't change. There's no work being done. They just, you fuck around and just dress up the outside. I did it for a good part of the beginning of my recovery, man. I was always worried about that shit. What did people think of me? You know, you walk in a fucking room and like, you got people, man, and I used to be one of them. You walk in a room and you think, every chick in this room wants me, and all the dudes in this room want to be me. And there's nothing further from the truth. So that's like that's the selfishness that we're talking about. We're talking about deep shit here. This is deep level shit. We're talking about making a true conversion. That kind of change. You know what I'm saying? You got defects like anger. And not just like anger in the sense of somebody cut you off and you're like, goddamn motherfucker, blah, 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 I'll fucking blah, 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 fuck you, blah. You know what I mean? That's just regular old anger. We're talking about anger like, how about being overly critical of people, right? That's a bad defect of character, man. It still shows its ugly head on me sometimes, but it was way worse in my life previous to coming to Narcotics Anonymous, right? And doing these steps. But that's a hard thing, man. A lot of us do that. We judgmental and overcritical. Right? That's a character defect, right? You got being impatient, being resentful, right? And when it comes to resentments, man, shit. Let me tell you something. Here's how you can look at resentments. Look at resentment like it's a road that you're on, right? And it leads to relapse. That's what it is. Resentments are like a path to relapse. And not to mention, they cause a lot of like stress and disappointment in a recovering addict. Think about it. You put all these crazy expectations on the people around you in this world. And when they don't meet them expectations, here you go, resentful than a motherfucker. And it ain't no good. It's like poisoning yourself. It's like you're mad at somebody and you pour a drink and put poison in it, and instead of giving it to them, you drink it yourself. Resentments are a bitch, man. You gotta try to stay out of that shit. You got things like, deep shit, man, like greed. Greed's a good one, man. Self-pity. And I mean like self-pity in the sense of like, I know a couple people, and I used to be this way too. Like self-pity to the point where like you want to be kind of like universally reviled. You know what I mean? Like, well, the world don't like me. Well, I'm going to give them something not to like. Fuck them motherfuckers. You know what I mean? I don't need nobody. Poor me, man. Especially, that shit right there keeps a lot of us using. It keeps a lot of us in active addiction because we stay blaming people and circumstances. Oh, my dad didn't love me enough. My mom used to smack me on the head. My girl left me. Oh, I had a great job and I got shafted. You know what I mean? Like, the world's against me, so fuck it. I'll give them something to be against me for. You know what I mean? Like, these are all defects of character, man. And, with the greed thing, man, it's like, greed to me is kind of like, you got greedy as in like, you know what I mean, you don't want to share nothing and stuff like that. But greed to me is kind of like, you only do things in this life if there's a payoff. You know what I'm saying? You like walk around only doing things if there's a payoff in the end for you, right? And that's definitely a defect of character. And this is what this step is here to do, to be ready to have removed. Doesn't mean once you work this step that all your defects of character are going to be removed. It's just we are ready to have God remove all these defects of character. And you got to remember that too. It don't say I'm ready to remove my own character defects. This says God. Now for me, it's good orderly direction of the Narcotics Anonymous program. Keeping yourself surrounded by people who are recovering, who are changing, who will give you some good advice. You know what I'm talking about? Good orderly direction. And through time and effort, you will have your character defects slowly removed, or at least lessened. Do you lose them altogether? That's debatable. But there's some glaring ones that we can do something about. And this step is, we already got into some shit in the fourth and the fifth step. We looked at a lot of bullshit. The way we handle relationships, guilt, shame, the people that we did wrong, people that did us wrong. You know what I mean? All that shit we already looked at. Now it's about looking at our part in shit. What are some of the behaviors I got that I know are not beneficial? Anyway, that was a hell of a motherfucking rant right there. My bad, man. This step ain't even that long. I just fucking took like 5 minutes on that bullshit. But everything I just said is real shit. We getting deep here. This is some change. Let's change, man. Anyway, real quick. How about changing to the point where you ain't gotta tell your family and your friends and your loved ones that you're sorry anymore? You know what I mean? Like, we're going to get to a part in this steps where it's like step 8, step 9, where we go and we try to make amends to people. But I'm talking about, how about when at the point you're to this part of the step work, by the time you're step 6, you are different. To where you ain't got to tell your loved ones that you're changing. They can just see it. It's who you're becoming. And it's very attractive to people, as to where we used to repel motherfuckers, right? I'm talking about some of us couldn't even walk up in our parents' house without whistling if we were going to the bathroom. They'd be like, yo, clap your hands while you go to the bathroom, motherfucker. I don't want you going in another room stealing some shit. You know what I'm talking about, right? Yeah. Now it's like, hey, you want to come over? Yeah. Hey, go ahead. Anywhere in the house you want to go, baby. You ain't even got to say nothing. They can just sense it. They know you're changing. They know you're doing something to better yourself, right? And that's incredible. And I've experienced that. Anyway, let's get back to reading. Do we really want to be rid of our resentments, our anger, our fear? Many of us cling to our fears, doubts, self-loathing, or hatred because there is a certain distorted security in familiar pain. Dang. That's crazy. Boy, do we love to live in some familiar pain. Right? We can be in something toxic as fuck. And on one hand be like, I gotta get the fuck out. But then on this other hand, it's like, I love the pain. As crazy as that sounds, that shit is insane. Some of us love to live in that comfortable insanity. There's like a comfortable insanity, right? It seems safer to embrace what we know than to let go of it for the unknown, right? Letting go of character defects should be done decisively. We suffer because their demands weaken us. Where we were proud, we now find that we cannot get away with arrogance. If we are not humble, we are humiliated. If we are greedy, we find that we are never satisfied. Before taking steps 4 and 5, we can indulge in fear, anger, dishonesty, or self-pity. Now, indulgence in these character defects clouds our ability to think logically. And boy, does it. Motherfucking right. Selfishness becomes an intolerable, destructive chain that ties us to our bad habits. Our defects drain us of all our time and energy. Hey, I want you to listen to that motherfucking line just now. I got so much respect for the people that wrote this literature. And this is old. This shit's like 70, 60 years old, something like that. You know, this book is written in like 70 something different languages, and it's in about 185 different countries around the world. Like, trust me, this motherfucking book knows what it's talking about. When it comes to the disease of addiction, boy, woo! You want to change? You want some change? You want to change? Listen to this line, dude. Who wrote this shit? Listen. Selfishness becomes an intolerable, destructive chain that ties us to our bad habits. That's crazy, dude. We examine the 4-step inventory. You know, remember when we did that searching and fearless moral inventory in step 4? That's what it's referring to, right? When we examine the 4-step inventory and we get a good look at what these character defects are doing to our lives, we begin to long for freedom from these defects. We pray or otherwise become willing, ready, and able to let God remove these destructive traits. We need a personality change if we are to stay clean. We want to change. We should approach old defects with an open mind. We are aware of them, and yet we still make the same mistakes and are unable to break the bad habits. We look to the fellowship for the kind of life that we want for ourselves. We ask our friends, did you let go? Almost without exception, the answer is yes, to the best of my ability. Let me just touch on this real quick. You know, right here it's talking about we are aware of them and yet we will still make the same mistakes. There's a paragraph in the beginning of this book somewhere, right? Before it gets into anything, before it gets into the readings and steps and all that, there's a little paragraph, and I can't quote it word for word, but even people in my program, we seem to glance over it. But I'm telling you, I had this book for like 2 years before I noticed this fucking paragraph. And this paragraph says something. I don't really want to like sit here and fucking look for it, man. I know I'm on video right now. I can't be taking time. But let me see. Anyway, it says something like this. Here we go. I found it. Listen to this shit. We cannot change the nature of the addict or addiction. We can help to change the old lie that once an addict, always an addict. By striving to make recovery more available, God help us to remember this difference. And all I'm going to say on that is, that's good to know. Because there's going to be days where I'm thinking I've been doing a lot of work on myself and everything. How come I keep falling short? How come I still have this criminal mind? Yeah, I'm not reacting to life anymore the way I used to. I don't rob people. I don't try to scam people. I'm living a good life. But how come I still fall short? How come I still got these defects that I just can't let go? I'm just rebelling, motherfucker. Rebelling. And here's why. It's in our nature. As fucked up as that sounds. It is in our nature to be self-centered, to be manipulative, to lie, to cheat, to steal. All these defects are in our nature. It's kind of like this. I like to put this out there because I like to simplify shit for myself and others, right? It's kind of like this. Have a cat, right? You got a cat that was born in the basement. You had a cat that had babies, right? Motherfucking kitten. Kitten never been outside in his life. Kitten grows up with nothing but the best. Air conditioning in the summer, heat in the winter, all these tasty treats, little motherfucking toys you buy. It's all soft and cuddly. It's so cute, right? And then one day that motherfucker's like a year and a half old, and you're looking at it and it's staring out the window. And you're looking at that motherfucker, and all of a sudden, the hair stands up on the back of his fucking neck, and his tail sticks out. And then you creep over there, and you look at him in the face, and the cat, its eyes all big, and it's fucking looking like a straight killer. And you're like, what the fuck is going on? You look out, and there's like a squirrel out there. Right? And you notice in that moment, all of a sudden, your cuddly-ass kitten, who ain't never even been outside, has now become straight killer. All it wants to do is kill. And you know why? Because it's in his nature. It's in the cat's nature. That's fucked up for us. It's fucked up to have those kind of defects be your nature. That's why this disease, which lays right here in the brain, it needs constant treatment. And I'm not talking about drug treatment. I'm talking about getting inside of here, or here, really. I mean, we refer to it as here, like it's in my heart. I can feel it in my gut. Really, all that shit is your brain. Your heart don't think, your gut don't think. But, you know, it's how we refer to shit. An internal change has to happen. If you want it, you can call it a brainwash. And you have to constantly do it. Because the day you stop doing it, you want to know what happens? You revert back to your nature. That's why y'all got people out there who've got clean and then all of a sudden went back out. They get fucked up and they tear their lives and your lives all the way to fuck back up again, man. Because it's a constant treatment. We are on a daily reprieve and it must require a daily effort. It's just that simple. Anyway, when we see how our defects exist in our lives and accept them, we can let go of them and get on with our new life. We learn that we are growing when we make new mistakes instead of repeating old ones. Yeah. When we are working step 6, it is important to remember that we are human and should not place unrealistic expectations on ourselves. That's just what I said. Just to let you know, I read this shit. It's exactly what I just said. But I think I gave you better explanation than this book just did. Shit. I'm just saying. Just saying. You got to understand your nature because you're going to fall short. And when that happens, a lot of addicts, man, they get in that motherfucking mode of like, oh, I just ain't shit. I'll never be shit. And the next thing you know, they're sitting in the crack house, bro. High as fuck. Disease got them all isolated and shit. You ain't shit. You ain't never going to be shit. You might as well just go get high. This is a step of willingness. Willingness is the spiritual principle of step 6. Step 6 helps us move in a spiritual direction. Being human, we will wander off course. Rebellion is a character defect that spoils us here. Motherfucking rebel without a cause. Right? We need not lose faith when we become rebellious. Rebellion can produce indifference or intolerance, which can be overcome by persistent effort. You heard what I said? We keep asking for willingness. We may be doubtful that God will see fit to relieve us or that something will go wrong. We ask another member who says, "You're right when you're supposed to be." We renew our readiness to have our defects removed. We surrender to the simple suggestions that the program offers us. And let me just run down them simple suggestions. Get a sponsor and work the steps. Go to meetings. Pray or meditate or both. Talk to another recovering addict. Those things right there are the basic suggestions. They are actually called the basics. And if you do the basics and you never stop doing the basics, you won't have to relapse and get back to doing the basics again. Eventually, faith, humility, and acceptance replace pride and rebellion. We come to know ourselves. We find ourselves growing into mature consciousness. We begin to feel better as willingness grows into hope. Perhaps for the first time, we see a vision of our new life. With this in sight, we put our willingness into action by moving on to step 7. That's it. That's the last sentence of that joint. And if you notice, usually at the end of all these steps, it talks about moving on. In other words, it's reminding you to keep it moving. Don't stop here. There's 6 other steps to do. You got to get to living. You got to get to changing. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, that's going to do it for me. I think I went off maybe on a couple little rants there that went too long. But I'm sorry. You know, this shit gets me hyped, dog. This shit gets me hyped. It's crazy. But with that said, like the video, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Hit that bell, man. And I'll end it like this. Just remember this, that the disease of addiction is broad and it's outside of the realm of just using drugs. Keep coming back. More will be revealed. I'm out of here, bro.